You know, I like to look at photographs as metaphors for pretty much anything. Like I look at it when I'm about to shoot something, when I'm about to hit the shutter button. I try to think like, is this evoking any emotions about something other than what I'm literally looking at? Like is it making me think about something else? I mean, to me, when it comes to photography, it's very rare that something just is what it is that makes me interested to shoot it. Like beautiful landscape, stuff like that. That's just like so easy to do. I try to shoot things that I think are metaphors for something else, that make me think about something completely different than what I'm looking at, that make me feel something that most people might not even understand. But if I get the opportunity to explain it, like I'm going to do now, might make sense to you, or you might think I'm completely out of my mind. But this particular photograph, when I was on the bridge, first of all, bridges represent a lot to me. Bridges are, in my opinion, they're bringing people together. They're, enabling us to go from one place to another that otherwise we would have to take a boat or something like that usually, or maybe we would not even be able to get there. But somebody builds a bridge and brings us together and allows people to go from one side to the other and experience new things, experience something that you really have to want to experience to get the energy up to go across this bridge, right? To build a bridge, to even want to have, a coming together of two separate places. So that's the first thing. But then this picture is of such a tiny little portion of the bridge. It's like one bolt, And so what it represents to me is that we have the tools. We have the tools to build these bridges. We have the tools to make things, to create things, to be creative, to fix problems, to solve things. And also, if you look through, you could see that there's a bridge in the distance as well. And we don't know what that looks like. It's just filled with possibilities. It's nothing but opportunity. It's whatever we can think of in our mind. We can make it whatever we want it to be. And so I love looking at things and, creating that kind of shallow depth of field and allowing our imagination to take us to wherever we want to go. That's what I love about it. And I also just technically, I like the way the image looks. I like the way the light is. I like the detail in the foreground. I don't know. I like it. But that's what I do when I think of shooting something. I don't just shoot anything. And sometimes I won't shoot anything when I'm out intending to get some photography done, which, I don't do as much as filmmaking for sure. Like filmmaking I do every day. Like that's a whole different thing for me. That's tied into my theater work. It's more tangible storytelling and creating characters and things like that. But photography for me is a very spiritual kind of internal practice, where I get to think about things that I generally don't think about, like I kind of stop everything around me and I don't really let anything else in the moment. And I get very, very present with where I am. And I just, try to feel whatever that moment feels like and see if it evokes anything that, inspires me to hit the shutter button, to want to get a composition, to want to look beyond just the little thing that I'm looking at. In this case, a tiny little portion of the bridge. And when I really, really focus on it and really, really get in a very meticulous kind of way, what else do I see? How far can I see? I'm looking very close, but how far does that push me to have a different kind of experience in my brain and in my heart? And this particular picture, to me, just looks like possibilities. It reminds me of the fact that there are so many things that are right in front of us. But if you stop sometimes and really pay attention, you might see those things pushing you to see things that are further away and tie it all together kind of like a bridge. Technically, I just love the way this picture looks on the type of paper that I print these on, that heavy textured artist paper that lasts forever, the archival paper. It feels like when you see it printed, it kind of looks like a surrealistic painting of the photograph that I took. I mean, it still definitely looks like the photograph, but there's something different about it because it's so heavy, and the kind of ink that's used, that inkjet, is like, it kind of gets into the paper, and it's just, there's a texture to it. It's just a lot different. So I try to choose stuff that's going to look good printed as well, because, you know, just looking at stuff digitally, it doesn't really do it for me. It's like, I always look at it like, what's it going to look like when it's printed, where I can hold it, you know, where I can maybe want to choose a frame, or maybe not even frame it, you know, just hold it and feel it and look at it while it's attached to my hands. It's a little bit different than looking at something on a screen. So anyway, that's the photograph for today, and now I'm going to get to the main part of the video. So, when was the last time you actually read an entire article without looking to your phone once? Like from start to finish, you saw the title, it was something you were interested in, and you read the whole thing, focused, without looking at your phone. Or when was the last time you watched a whole video without looking at your phone one time? When was the last time you watched a full movie? Like from start to finish, you didn't break to go to the bathroom or eat dinner or call a friend or text back and forth, but you actually were focused for 2 hours watching the entire film, even in a movie theater. Like I was at the movies recently and I saw people texting and talking to one another. Like when was the last time you found yourself with that kind of focus in your life? Because you see, I think this is the problem with the world right now, actually, is that we don't take the time to think inside of our own heads. Like we're responding immediately to, you know, things that are coming up in front of us on a timeline, scrolling constantly 24 hours a day, and then we're responding to it right away. We're liking it, we're commenting on it, and we're being very emotional about it oftentimes. Like when was the last time you just focused on something, you received it, and then you actually thought about it, but you didn't even respond to it immediately? Or if ever, you just kind of thought about it, like you actually experienced critical thinking. When was the last time you did something like that? I think this is what we're losing, you know? That's why I think sometimes it's better to have a smaller channel where you see the same people over and over again, and the same people are commenting, and you know that there's an exchange going on, there's a conversation, and I just think it's much more meaningful than people coming here and just clicking off and going someplace else, or not really watching, or, you know, some people saying, hey, I let your video run for the whole thing, just run through, but they didn't really even watch it. Like, this is what's happening to our society. We're not giving ourselves space to think inside of our own heads. You know, we're not allowing ourselves to have time to contemplate things, to understand who we are and how we feel about things. You know, that we're not always going with the popular thing, you know, like we're not agreeing with everybody who we know we should agree with, or who we think we should agree with, because we're afraid to be outcasts, to be, you know, kind of ostracized by our people, who we think are our people. I mean, I think it's dangerous, and I think it's why we are where we are right now. Because we're kind of tribal, you know, it's us and them, and that's it. And we're not even thinking about it, you know? We're not even exploring the whole story. You know, like you hear something, you see a blurb, you see something on YouTube or on social media, it's 10 seconds or 20 seconds, or maybe it's even 3 or 4 minutes, but that's not long enough to really have things in context, to really understand what's going on, to really learn about something. You know, I think that context is everything, right? Somebody said that to me recently, and it's so true. But I also think that we're losing not the ability, well, partially the ability, but we're losing the desire to go within our own selves and understand how we might feel about something, even if it's different than somebody who you're close to feels about it. Even if it's not the same as a group of people who you feel a part of, your community, you might disagree with them. It could happen. And we're not making our own decisions. We're acting as, you know, a whole, as opposed to individuals. And, you know, I've always felt like, it's funny, I've always kind of lamented the fact that I never have felt really, really, truly like I'm a part of a community. And as I get older, I realize that I've kind of done that to myself, you know, because as much as I've been kind of a, you know, like a ancillary part of communities, I haven't really been embedded in like a true part of it, because I think for myself. I don't always agree. I don't always, you know, want to go with what everybody else is doing. I'm not trying to be popular. Even when I was growing up playing sports and I was on teams, I was never a part of the team in a way where everybody went out, they hung out, they did things together. Like I went to practice, I played in the games, that was it, you know, and I was friendly with everybody. I was quiet, but I wasn't really a part of the gang, you know what I mean? Like the whole crew, you know? I was willing to go against what was going on inside of this team or this community, this group of poets or actors or musicians or whatever. I always felt much more comfortable being myself, thinking for myself. And I think we're really kind of falling away from that, but at the same time, it's kind of always been that way. And maybe that's why we are where we are right now. You know, I also noticed that the people who I'm closest to are generally a lot like me, you know. They're very individual, they're kind of loners in a way. They think for themselves, they, you know, kind of, you know, they just are not like anybody else. You can't put them in a category of, oh, he's one of them, you know, he's one of that group of people. He follows what they believe in. He does what they do, you know. Most of my friends are just like me. There's not a lot of them, but because it's, I think in the age of social media and this world that we live in now, it's even more difficult to be that way. It's not celebrated, you know. But when you think about it, most of the great leaders throughout history who were like that were ostracized or even killed. I mean, you know, I'm not a religious person, but look at the story of Jesus Christ, you know. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. I mean, some of the greatest people in history, the greatest thinkers, you know, the most contemplative, inner thinking, you know, people who took the time to spiritually deal with issues were ostracized by their communities quite often. So I think it starts with focus, you know. Like I say, when was the last time you read an article or read a book or watched an entire film or watched an entire series, you know? Maybe you binge watched, but I'm sure you did a lot of stuff in between without really focusing on the story. And I challenge you in saying that I don't think you can. I think you've lost the ability to do that. I don't think you can read an entire article without going to your phone or texting somebody or emailing or something. Like, I don't think you could even take a shower and just leave the phone off and not hear anything, just silence. I don't think you could sit and just think when you're eating dinner, just quietly, sit at a table by yourself and just think. Or, you know, even with your family, don't have the TV on, don't have your phone on a radio station or a podcast or some kind of musical, you know, Spotify or something like that. Like, I challenge you to do that because I don't believe you could do that. I don't think many people could do that anymore. I think, you know, and I found myself guilty of it many times as well. But I'm pushing myself further and further away from that, and I'm going back to what I feel. And receiving people fully. You know, now people are shocked if you actually listen to them, if you actually read them, if you actually watch their entire video, if you actually listen to an entire album or go see the whole play or watch an entire movie. I can't tell you how many times people told me, I saw the first 20 minutes, I'm going to get to the rest of your movie. My movie's 2.5 hours long. Or my other movie is 100 minutes long. Like, they're around 2 hours. And most people just can't do it. They can't watch the whole thing. And, you know, it's fine. I'm honored that anybody is going to watch the movie, even if it's in increments. I mean, that's fine. But I also know that it's not meant to be received that way. And I have to admit that I kind of feel like you're not really getting the story unless you watch the whole thing from start to finish. And I don't think it's a lot to ask. But, you know, most people think that's a lot to ask. Like, you want me to watch a whole movie? You want me to read an entire book? You know, well, look, reading a whole book is different. You'd be maybe sitting there for like 8 hours. But reading an entire article from the New York Times, NPR, whatever your periodical of choice is, I think it's really important to learn how to read things and then think about them. Think about it. Can you even think about it without going to social media to see what other people are saying about it? Did you see what Jon Stewart said yesterday? Did you hear about Colbert? Did you hear what the president said? Did you hear this? Did you hear that? Like, but did you even think about it yourself? Did you even kind of sit there and ask yourself questions, contemplate what was said, what the subject is, what's going on, how it affects other people, how it affects you? Did you even think about that? I don't know if you can. I don't know if many people can anymore. And so I guess I say all that to say, if you have a small YouTube channel, for example, but you have the same people coming back all the time and they're commenting and they're talking, I think that's a really good thing. It's like you're doing something revolutionary. You're doing something so different. You're actually engaging people for real. They're watching the whole thing. They're commenting on the whole thing. They're making 4 or 5 comments because they're commenting as they're watching. I think it's very special to be able to engage people in this day and age. And I also think it's something worth developing inside of yourself, to be able to take things in fully without multitasking and allowing the timeline of life to get in the way of who you are, literally. It changes who you are. It changes what you're about. It'll make you change what you believe in a second, because you might think something, but then you see that all of your friends feel a different way and suddenly you feel that way because you're not brave enough, you don't feel comfortable enough to be different than everybody else in your group. To say, no, I don't feel that way. I think that's stupid. You know, or start a conversation about it. But then, can you even find anybody else to converse with you? You know, to go against the grain? Then people start to feel like, you know, like we're on such powerful teams that you can't fracture that team. You know, you can't get out of that community. And so, you know, I choose to be on my own. I choose to be an individual. I choose to think for myself. I choose to contemplate. I choose to ingest the stuff and then digest it and really come to conclusions within myself, and then go into the community and discuss things and have these exchanges and have these beautiful conversations. I think it's of so much more value. I think it builds empathy, but also you're much more apt to be speaking on something that you actually know about, that you've actually thought about for real. You know, that you haven't just jumped into the minutia that is everybody else on the planet Earth, the 7,500 people that commented on this video, you know, the 8,000 people who liked it. Like, suddenly you're just one of them, and then you're just preaching to the choir. You're saying the same thing. Everybody's basically saying the same thing. Every once in a while, you'll see somebody who says something different, and watch how many people jump on that comment and just try to destroy that person. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So dangerous, so fucked up, in my opinion. So, anyway, I was in Cold Spring, New York today. Right now I'm in Beacon, New York. That's the Newburgh Beacon Bridge behind me. And I was eating lunch with my friend Audrey today, and we were sitting in Cold Spring, most beautiful place. I showed you a little bit of footage from there. And that's why she and I are so close, because we're very, very similar in that way. We don't even have to agree all the time. But we're both very contemplative, and we're both not a part of the crowd. We don't do what everybody else does. We don't think what everybody else thinks. And I'm just saying, don't hate me for being that way. You know, it doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. It doesn't mean that I don't have the best of intentions always. But I will never not think for myself. I will never not contemplate, and I will continue to work on being able to be quiet. You know, being able to be focused myself and to never lose my voice, to always stay original. You know, it's important for me when I'm writing a script, creating a story, that I am creating the story. And of course, we're all influenced by one another. But I want to know that it's being original. It's like from me. I'm not regurgitating what everybody else is saying and feeling. That I'm telling you how I feel, what it means to me, you know, how this is affecting my life. And then you can discuss that, comment on it, feel that, agree with it, disagree with it, whatever, it's fine. You might like it, you might not like it, it's all good. At least I know that I'm giving you of myself. I'm not giving you what I heard from this one, who heard it from that one, who heard it from them, who heard it from those people, who heard it from them. And it's like the game of telephone, and it just keeps changing. And at the end of the day, it means nothing. It means nothing. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about today. Up here in Beacon, coming from Cold Spring. Now I'm going to go back to my life. Got some errands to do, and yeah. So please subscribe and please hit the like button. And please consider joining my Patreon. That would be awesome. And there's the train. That's all I got to say about all that for today.